Activist Sandile Mdlongwa has partnered with the Gauteng Department of Community Safety to help fight gender-based violence and femicide. The partnership comes 3 weeks heading into the 16 days of activism for no violence against women and children. It also calls for ordinary South Africans to be accountable in fighting the scourge. For more on this, we are now joined by GBVF Activist Sandile Mdlongwa. Sandile, thank you so much for joining us and being with us this evening.
Thank you so much, Ms. Katlego-Msomi, for having me. Much
appreciated. It's an absolute pleasure. I just want us to start off with your story. I mean, you're an author, you're a playwright, you are an academic, but I believe what truly sums you up is activist. I mean, the name Sandile Mdlongwa was on everyone's lips, especially at a time when the Fees Must Fall campaign was at its height. You were even jailed at some point. What does activism mean to you?
Activism is about standing for the rights of the people. You see, it all comes into selflessness. You've got to think about other people. The concept that was exhausted and utilized by Dr. Kenneth Kaunda. So you've got to not only think for yourself, but also think for the next person. And that is why we're doing what we're actually doing. You know, people want to talk only when things are affecting them directly. So now we are talking, even though these things have not affected us directly, some of them, but in most cases, we grow up in situations, circumstances, and homes where we're exposed to things that are wrong, that are unconstitutional, things that are immoral, such as raping and killing of women, and women also being abused continuously.
And that's where I wanted us to now shift our focus. I mean, you shifted your focus from Fees Must Fall. I mean, you've graduated, got into degrees, and now the scourge and the pandemic surely is squarely on gender-based violence. How important do you feel that people who are not, like you said, directly affected by GBV need to be standing up against such pandemics?
In fact, the policy of the National Strategic Plan, as also the government stated in the presidential summit, I was there as well. I was also a delegate in the provincial summit. It needs to reach the grassroots where it is needed, in township, because that is where there is a lot of violence against women. That is where there is a lot of alcohol and drug abuse, of which they are interrelated to gender-based violence. So the message needs to reach township so that people who are in township, ordinary people, I'm from township, that is where I grew up, we become the first ones to fight the scourge of gender-based violence. It's very important.
As an academic and as an author and a playwright, I assume that a lot of your body of work is primarily based on research. And when you speak of townships and where a lot of gender-based violence is taking place and the conversations need to be had in the townships, from your research, what are you finding as the root causes of GBV being so heightened within the townships?
Well, based on my research, when I was constructing the play of Poison, what I discovered as one of the major roots of the problem is the concept of gender. People confuse the concept of gender with the concept of sex. For instance, sex refers to the anatomical or biological that differentiate us from I as a male and from you as a female. You having female genitalia and I having male genitalia. It has nothing to do with gender. And a lot of people use these concepts interchangeably. On the other hand, gender is a social construction, meaning that people have given perspectives, interpretations based on sex. This is where now the concept of gender roles come in. This is where now the sociology of gender comes in. What you are expected to do as a female, what I'm expected to do as a male. When I grow up, I'm told that I've got to be a man. I've got to man up. I've got to take charge of my house. My wife, my spouse, my girlfriend must take instructions from me. See, that is where the problem actually is. So now what we need to do is we need to reteach society. We need to re-educate society that culture is not static. Culture is dynamic. Culture changes over time. We are living in a conservative nation where people tend to hold on to their cultural norms and value system. For instance, you must be asking yourself why I have brought these flowers today. And I will explain the meaning of me coming with these flowers today to the studio. Actually, these flowers were brought to me by my spouse before I came to the studio. And then she said to me, why is it that men only receives their flowers when they are dead?
True.
Now, the question again is, who associated the gesture of giving another person flowers with femininity and docility?
Because
there is nothing wrong with me actually getting flowers.
Right.
There is nothing wrong with men, because men only get their flowers when they are dead. So we need to deconstruct.
Speaking of that deconstruction, I mean, in your play of Poison, you speak of unlearning social constructs of gender for both the boy child and the girl child,
yes,
in order for us to unravel the toxic femininity and masculinity. Where do we then draw the line where some of these gender roles that have been created for the goodness of our cultures and traditions from where we come from aren't distorted?
Well, this is not an attack to culture. It is not an attack to men. It is not a weapon that is formed against men. But we are saying anything that is learned can be unlearned. Any behavior that is learned can be unlearned. So we need to change. We need to deconstruct. We need to say that, for instance, there is nothing wrong with me washing dishes in my house or in our house, because I've got hands too. We've got situations whereby maybe a woman is working and a man is not working. Now, a woman will go to work the whole day, working, standing up the whole day, and now when she comes back home, exhausted, physically so, you find a man who is sitting and laying in bed, probably watching soccer, watching television, or doing whatever that he may be doing, expecting a woman to still come, clean, cook, and dish up. And now that narrative should change.
But Sandile, can we change that narrative within this lifetime?
Well, it is a social constructive. It may not be changed within this lifetime, but it can be changed. I mean, changing things that are deeply entrenched is not an overnight process. I'll make a practical example. For instance, the abuse and the scourge of GBVF did not begin today. For many years, even if you read through the Bible, women have always been oppressed. But at least gradually so, we now have democratic constitutions where we can have these summits to facilitate dialogues. We have got a democratic constitution that promotes gender equality and gender parity. We've got a democratic constitution that promotes the freedoms of all persons, regardless of your race, of your sexuality, another concept that is usually misunderstood, of your identity, and also whoever you may be. Our constitution, actually, so it shows that there is change. There is change. So now, the stereotypes against women is so entrenched. I mean, even if you go to the Bible, Eve is accused of conspiring with the devil, and
against
that brought,
the man.
Yes, against the man.
Sorry,
and God is thought to be a man.
True.
As well.
We are running out of time. I just want us in one sentence. Your
Yes.
play is running between the 8th and the 10th
Yes.
of
My
this
play,
month
so
at Soweto
now,
Theatre.
so
What
this
can
is a movement.
viewers expect?
Yes. So it's not only just a play.
Okay.
It's not only just a play. It's a movement. Because where we started when we were fighting against illegal minors who were likely abusing women in townships. So that is where we started. But now, ours is not only based on theory, but also on social action, social programs. where we engage people. We can't all now go and chant, you know, and throw stones. At some point, we must come with build institutions, write books, publish papers, engage people, come with feasible and pragmatic programs on the ground. See, now people must learn times have changed. We need gender parity. This is not time of Shagazul where people just sing bomb, 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 you know, and after that you go home and abuse your woman, whatsoever. Times have changed.
You certainly have moved with the times. That's all the time that we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us in studio, and I hope you'll keep getting your bunch of flowers week on week, and you'll also reciprocate. That is GBV activist Sandile Mdlongwa, whose play is out at the Soweto Theatre from the 8th to the 10th of November, focusing on that scourge. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much.
Well, let's take you for a quick ad break. We'll see you after this.